if this is, how an art instructor would guide folks through how you start to reflect on and build your art style, but this is where I'm at with it. I feel like there is a lot of focus in the art world, and I understand why, but there's, a lot of focus in the art world on, like how you develop your art style. And I kind of put those thoughts to the side. So that would be my first tip. Don't start your creative practice, reignite your creative practice with the goal per se to figure out like what your art style is. I started off by wanting to just get back into my art practice, like my goal was to ground in how do I create a daily art practice. How do I use my creative practice to support uh, my high anxiety times? And really, that's really what started, me kind of reigniting my creative practice specifically was trying to incorporate my art practice as a way to help with managing my anxiety. And then it evolved into, me building a relationship with my art practice so that I could feel comfortable and confident to go to that um when I was having high anxiety. And so it's almost a weird, I would say we're coming up on a year in a few months that I have been basically creating daily. And I was like, well, and it's interesting because really last night is the first time that I felt like that. So this is kind of a nod to the intuitive aspect of work. Last night was the first time that I had gotten this inkling that, okay, well, maybe I should talk about my art style. Maybe I should start reflecting on like where I'm at and building that out and thinking about it. And I wanted to show you all, and I can show you last night, like what this was one of the pieces, the quick images that I did last night. Thank you. This is one of the pieces that I did last night in my sketching session. This bird, and then I also did these other birds too. Let's see. I did these birds as well. And I was like, oh, and it just randomly because I happened to have both of these pages open. I had my both of these sketchbooks just kind of sitting down. Um, you know, this one was drying, and then this one was hanging out because I was working on something else. And I was like, oh, this I think I'm ready to start talking about my art style. Like there's some similarities that I can see not only in these, but in also some of the other, images that I pulled up. And so today I wanted to start documenting, start talking about what I'm thinking about my art style at this point in my creative practice. And I went through my sketchbooks this morning and I'm like, let me try to give like a good comparison. And these are like snap peas right here. And one of the things that I noticed, here is that I see like the beginnings of what I would say is my art style. So I mentioned the first kind of tip, which is, when you're starting your art practice out, not necessarily. starting with the goal of trying to figure out what your art style is. The other thing that I would say was helpful too is that I knew that I really enjoy color pencils, and I have a color pencil video on my channel by this and I talk about this artist that I follow because I love his line work and the way that he uses color pencils but also mixed media in his work. His name is Jan, Yann Kibbe, Kebbi, and you'll see that on my channel if that's interesting to you. But line work is a very important aspect of visual elements in my art. So I knew that I wanted to get better with color pencils and line work. So I started looking for color pencil artists that I really liked the way that they built depth with color pencils. I like the lines that they use, and Jan Kibbe happens to be one of those folks. And so I would do master studies of him, and there's another guy. Let me see. I would do, oh, Saul Steinberg. That's the other person. So I did some master studies of like Jan Kibbe's work. Let me move this up a little bit. I did some master studies of Jan Kibbe's work. And I have a whole Pinterest board dedicated to Jan Kibbe. If you want to check out more of his work. But I started to just incorporate some of the line work that I had practiced when I was doing the master studies of him. And then let's see, another person. Let's see, I mentioned Jan. This is another Jan Kibbe that I didn't finish. But Saul Steinberg, I did these master studies in March of this year. And he was another person that I really liked his line work and the way that he varied mixed media. And like, for instance, like this pink one, how if you lay lines on top of each other in a different direction, you can create shading and depth, right? So I was practicing that. So that's another tip. Find some artists that you really enjoy and then do some master studies of their work. And specifically hone in on the things that you're trying to get better at. So, like I said, I was trying to get better at creating different marks, using lines to create shading and depth, and then also like mixed media, like varying between like pencil, color pencil, neo colors, all of these things, right? So this is like where I wanted to show y'all about where I started with uh what I would say is where my art style, where I can clearly see my art style emerging. And one of the kind of some of the indicators of that are the way that I use the different colors, the different color pencils and neo colors here, the way that I use lines, like straight lines and then like squiggly lines, to create depth in these are snap peas, in these snap peas right now. This is not the best snap pea sketch, right? But I can see where I'm building on this, and I can show y'all a few more images where I can clearly see like my art style emerging, like this shallot. Let me bring it a little closer. This shallot, I really love the depth that I was able to create. I like the lines in here. I like the colors as well. And there are different mediums that I use here. This is color pencil. For the most part, this is color pencil, neo colors. And this darker color is like the brush pen. So that's the shallot. These doggies that I did too, I've been creating this postcard for a friend of mine at work whose little doggy got injured and is currently in a cast, and so I wanted to send them a postcard to the office and send her little dog some dog mail. So I'm making postcards, and so this is me drawing her little doggy. He's a Yorkie, and doing that in different in different ways. So like these are, if you can see the difference, in this one, the lines are like straight down. In this one, the lines are like squiggly, there's some squiggly lines to create the depth. And then in this one, it's straight and squiggly lines, right? So this is another image where I can see like my art style coming together. Um, Okay, this one, I'll bring it up here closer. This one is okra. I talked about this in another recent video about sketching the same thing over and over again and drawing like fruits and vegetables and flowers and some animals like salamanders and things like that are like my safe space. And so I really, really love the way that this okra turned out. I love that. This is like this. When I started to think about it this morning and open this up, I'm like, yeah, this is definitely like a style, my art style kind of coming out here. These are sweet potatoes. I like to draw food that are a part of my culture. So I draw a lot of okra, sweet potatoes, tomatoes, rutabagas, things like that, right? But I love these pieces because they start off with watercolor and then I add color pencil, neocolors, and I think that's it on top of these. There might be a little bit of marker in here too, but I think it's just watercolor, color pencil, neocolors. And then the sweet potatoes, I really love these as well. I love the color variation. I like the line and the marks. I like the way that the highlights are used. I also like the shading and the little decoration to like finish, the image off. And then the cursive writing that I incorporate to identify, what these are. Let's see. This is another one I really love. I like this whole spread. I did not finish this spread yet. There's supposed to be a salamander that goes right through here, but I still haven't finished this one yet. But I love this cardinal, and I think that this is another example of my artistic style. Again, like same base, watercolor, color pencils, and then neo colors on top, right? But a combination of straight and squiggly lines to create depth. So I really like that one. Um, and then these are the last ones. I showed y'all these at the top. But this is a picture of just a bird, right? But again, I like the way that I use the color pencils, the water. There's a little bit of watercolor on here, not a lot. And then just the color variation. And then this one, I don't like the eyes are weird. Like I have a hard time with eyes, but otherwise, I think that this came out. I love the color combinations is watercolor. I started with watercolor on the bottom and then added color pencil and neo colors on top. And I really, really like that. I love the way that I put down the initial color of gray, just the sweep of color, and then did the squiggle lines on top to create some depth and also to make it look like feathers, right? So when you are starting out with, thinking about your art style, I just based on what I've done, it's important to just explore. I When I sit down, I don't limit myself, and say, oh, I'm only supposed to be drawing these particular subjects. Like, I just draw what I want to. And like I said, this morning I got up, I had this open on my table. I had this sketchbook open on my table, and I was like, "Oh, I feel like I have like quite a few pieces that resemble this this art style. So maybe that means that I'm ready to start talking about my art style now that I can kind of reflect more on, the visual elements of these particular pieces, what the similarities are, and then exploring my creative decision making, like why I do things the way that I do them. And I have so many videos talking about how do you build creative decision making. Um, and then there's another skill. I can't think of it right off the top of my head, but I mentioned it last night in a video that I posted. I've been focusing on two particular skills, like I said, and that's building creative decision making. Oh, and the creative muscle memory. So that's the other thing. And so yeah, I was like, oh, I had this open after my late sketching session last night, and I'm like, I have quite a few images now that I can like talk about what I see as it relates to my line work, composition, like texture, but then also like again like some of the creative decision making choices that I could talk through with you all as well, about the materials and the techniques, and especially like the themes and the subject matter. But I think the other piece too is something that I'll probably do I'll do a separate video on this emotional response. What emotions do you aim to evoke in your viewers? And how do you achieve this through your artistic choices? I am really big on creating mood and atmosphere in my artwork, and like how do you do that, right? How do you develop that? How do you create that? How do you evoke emotions, right? And so for me, especially when I'm sketching and drawing like food from my culture, that is an intuitive and intentional subject matter for me, because that evokes emotions for me, like when I see okra and sweet potatoes and rutabagas and things like that. So like the description says, I don't know if this is the right way. I don't know if an art instructor would tell you, this is how you do it. This is just how I've been thinking about my artistic style. And I see so many videos on here, where folks are talking about like how do you determine, think about your art style. So I just wanted to share, you know, how I'm now thinking about my art style and what the steps have been to get to this place. And I'll keep building on this, because again, this is my first time like really processing this after almost a year of creating and drawing every single day. This is my first time actually being intuitively led to, okay, now I think I can talk about my art style. So I'll create some more videos on this. Let me know what your thoughts are about thinking through art style. At the end, I just mentioned an additional aspect of thinking about art style is like emotional response. And for me, that is definitely something that I'm, intentional about, evoking emotions. Um, and mood and atmosphere. Those are the other, the other pieces that I think about too. So, all right, I'll see you all on the next video.